Well, this is awesome. Welcome to Lake Okeechobee. This is one of the largest lakes in Florida. We are surrounded by this amazing wetland habitat. It's home to all sorts of creatures, unique animals to Florida. But there's one species in particular, one of the most beautiful birds in North America we've come to discover, and that is, Rob?
The snail kite.
The snail kite. This is Robert Fletcher. He's a biologist. He's a professor with the University of Florida in Gainesville. And this is Meghan. She's working on her Ph.D. We've been working with the Miccosukee in their very important project to restore the population of apple snails that live in wetland habitat like this. We also know everything in Florida, ecosystems, species are somehow connected. And in this case, with the apple snails, they are the single most important resource for snail kites.
That's right, Jeff. So over 99% of their diet are apple snails. And so one of the big reasons why snail kites decline or increase is based on the status of apple snails.
For our mission, what's our focus?
Well, today we're trying to understand just how many snail kites are in this area right now and how well they're doing foraging. We're also going to set up some new research where we're going to try to attract snail kites to areas that we think are really good for them.
And Meghan, that's where you come in.
Yes. So these are some 3D printed snail kite decoys, and we're gonna put them out in combination with some snail kite calls to try to attract the snail kites to some restored pieces of wetland.
In order to do that, we need to find some snail kites. Let's go do it.
Let's go.
All right.
We glide through this unique wetland in search of the elusive snail kite, a bird of prey once teetering on the brink of extinction. And we may have just found a clue to their comeback story.
So this cluster of aquatic vegetation is called duck potato. They call it duck potato because it has these little sort of flowery fruiting bodies up there that kind of look like potatoes. But what's really neat about it is that they will shoot up and rise, and it's a perfect substrate for apple snails to lay their eggs. And if you look, we can see about a half a dozen of egg clusters. But the thing is, Rob, these aren't the native apple snails.
No, these are the non-native apple snails, Jeff. Pomacia maculata is the scientific name, and they're from South America.
So how did they get here?
We do think that they were probably released in the aquarium trade in Florida.
So this is a shell of an exotic apple snail from South America. And you can see they're significantly bigger.
Yes, they can be 2 to 5 times bigger than the native apple snails.
The invasive apple snail's eggs are numerous with clutches of up to 2,000. Once established, these invasive apple snails greatly alter the entire wetland ecosystem, particularly impacting plant communities and nutrient cycling.
And that is kind of like the perfect storm for outcompeting a native species, isn't it?
It sure is. And in fact, when we go out and do surveys of apple snails, we can see densities that are much, much greater than we would ever see with native apple snails.
So it can have an incredibly catastrophic effect on an ecosystem like this. But there's an upside.
There is.
And what's that upside?
Well, snail kites, which are, as we've said, are endangered, they will readily eat these non-native snails. And so over time, we've seen more and more snail kites eating non-native snails, and that's helped bring the population back.
2 decades ago, we were looking at 700, give or take, snail kites. Today, we have just under 3,000. And that edge for survival very well may have come from this invasive species, which is kind of a plus I don't think folks were originally considering.
No, everyone was quite surprised.